teach a very simple technique called the relaxation response that was developed by a physician in Boston in the 1970s.
You're listening to Squeeze Limes, where truth stings, laughs heal, and nothing's off limits. I'm Tyler, the daughter.
I'm Robin, the mom. And if life gives you lemons,
We're squeezing limes instead.
so grab a seat, open your mind, and get ready to laugh or cry because we're not here to play nice.
We're here to get real. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Squeeze Limes, or if this is your first time, we're excited to have you. We're so happy to have Dr. Kate Lund with us today. She's a licensed clinical psychologist, resilience expert, author, and host of the Optimized Mind podcast. With over 20 years of clinical practice, plus specialized training through 3 Harvard Medical School affiliated hospitals, her work helps people move through stress with more steadiness, more self-awareness, and more capacity for real life. She's worked with parents, athletes, students, and entrepreneurs. And she's written 2 books, Bounce and Step Away, both centered on resilience and parenting in a world that asks a lot of us. She also volunteers at Seattle Children's Hospital with her dog Wally, which honestly tells you a lot about her heart. We are so excited. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Of course.
Our pleasure. You know, resilience is one of those words that people use all the time. I'm just wondering, because it is so vague, I'm just wondering when you strip it down, what does resilience actually look like in real human life?
Yeah, that's such a great question, right? Because it's a word that's thrown around a lot, and oftentimes folks are looking at it as that thing that has to come up when a challenge comes up. But really, I'm looking at it much more broadly than that, much more like a lifestyle. How can we integrate tools and strategies into our life in a way that allows us to optimize our own sense of well-being and our own sense of being able to show up across the domains of our lives so that we can better manage challenges as they come up?
Absolutely.
So what does that look like more specifically? If you can give a story or a scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so for us as parents, right, we're being barraged by so much all the time. And there are going to be stressors that come up at varying degrees each and every day. And so from a general sense, what we really want to do is find a way to manage our stress response. We want to show up level each day as best as possible, such that we're not starting up here and a challenge hits and boom, we escalate to the point of shutdown.
Right. So neutral, start at
Yeah, we want to try to start at neutral. And so I teach a very simple technique called the relaxation response that was developed by a physician in Boston in the 1970s. Before this was a thing, but very effective, well-researched technique. Super simple. You come up with a word or a phrase that you find soothing in some way, and you breathe. And I have folks start with 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes later in the day, and you start to integrate what it feels like to be in this stress modulated space. And from there, you can carry it around in your back pocket, use it when a stressor comes up. But the most important thing is trying to remain level as best we can.
Right, exactly. Overreact, don't overreact.
And from there, it's integrating things that help us to optimize. I've got lots of stories about clients who I've helped to do this, and it's a very powerful strategy. But really, resilience looks different for all of us.
Of course, of course. So really, the response is like a form of meditation.
The relaxation response is a form of meditation. It's a very easy to use. It can be done in short spurts, but yeah, it's a form of meditation.
I love that.
Kind of like an affirmation, right? Like you're like, I am calm, breathe, and then go through your day, do it again later in the day.
When you feel it, you just bring, right. But the one word, I mean, for me anyway, I'm going to start this because one word I could do. If I go further, then I'm already ruminating. And so I like the one word. That's really a great
What's your one
strategy.
word?
I don't know. I have to think of it. She just taught me it 1 second ago. Hold on. By the end of it, I'm sure I'll have a word.
We'll have to think on that word. Do you have a specific word that you use if you use this?
So I do use this, and I use the word blue because it's my very favorite color, and I find it very soothing, very calming. And I agree that it's easiest to have like one word, so that because you want it to be low maintenance, you don't want it to be complex. Some people are more able to manage with a phrase, but I personally prefer the one word. I find that to be the most user friendly.
Awesome.
That's great. I like that. And I like that it's not like it's just a color that you chose.
Which has depth. That word, that's.
But I'm saying like it doesn't have to be some
right.
fancy word that is.
No, I love that.
It's great. Yes. So many people are carrying a lot and still telling themselves they're fine. What do you notice in people when they've been running on empty for longer than they realize?
Yeah, that's such a great question because oftentimes we're moving through life so fast at warp speed. We've got all of these inputs coming at us all the time. And we feel like that's our baseline, but we don't recognize that we're running on empty. And so when you start to tip over that edge into truly empty, I find that folks, their fuses get shorter. They might be snapping at things that might not have been a big deal a year ago, but now they're a huge deal because they have less capacity. Folks, might have changes in mood, become much more anxious, might start to isolate, might start to get a little bit depressed, might start to feel like, well, I just don't have the energy to do, that thing that used to give me energy, but now it drains my energy. So it's things like that start to happen. And as they start to happen more readily and more frequently, it's a point where we're able to see, oh, maybe there's something happening here and I need to get help. But it's often hard to get to that point.
Right. People aren't so in tune with their bodies and their brains at the same time. When they're escalated or when they're feeling this way, they just go down a slippery slope, I think. So, yes, or it's good for other people to be your barometer and notice and maybe ask if you're okay. And maybe the check-in would be good as well to get there. But once you do, you're saying that that's when you notice to breathe and come back to the response. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to perhaps use the relaxation response to modulate. Perhaps it's the point where you want to, engage in some coaching or some therapy. Definitely want to make sure that you're leaning on people in your life, though, as well, to both help you gauge where you are in time and space, and also that we know the power of social connection and how that can really bolster our sense of well-being in general. So that's one of the pillars that we want folks to really be engaging in consistently: social connection, community support, something along those lines.
Absolutely.
And this is, I would assume you're speaking more in person, social connection, because I think in at least our time and day, a lot of the connection that's made is virtual. So do you want to put some input on that?
Yeah, definitely. In-person connection is wonderful and optimal in many senses. But if there are barriers, there are barriers to support, virtual online support groups or community groups or groups related to a passion or a hobby can be very powerful and very effective. But sure, if If in-person support is possible, if in-person connection is possible, it's definitely optimal.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. You know, you work with such a wide range of people, parents and athletes and students and entrepreneurs. What do they all seem to have in common with when the stress actually starts?
Yeah, that's really a great question as well. And really, a lot of the things that all of these different groups have in common is that sense of impending burnout, that sense of losing interest and feeling burned out physically and emotionally and having trouble engaging. And that's really what I've found to be the commonality between all of the different groups.
They're just drained energy completely, just drained out. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So beyond the stress response of, your word and your calming, and what is another step that someone can take to get out of burnout or before they even reach burnout?
Well, a couple things. And so the piece that comes into play right after we have folks learn to modulate their stress response is we need to have a sense of self-awareness. What are the things that we need to be optimal within our own unique context? So how can we optimize our own sense of well-being within our own unique context? And that looks different for all of us. For some, it might be the social connection that we talked about. For some, it might be getting some fresh air each day, exercise, movement. For some, and I find this one really powerful, engaging in a hobby that's gotten lost in the mix of life.
Right, the creativity.
The creativity piece is so powerful. Maybe it's engaging with animals. These are all very simple things, but we always have the tendency, particularly when we're in this place of burnout, to lose sight of some of these simple things because we're moving at warp speed through life. And so these are really small steps that we can take. But first, it's understanding ourselves. What do we need to be optimal within our own unique context?
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful way to put it, of you're not necessarily having to take something out of your life or, shut something down to eliminate burnout. It's more bringing something in that brings you joy and peace and that steadiness to move forward and continue.
That people people lose that, and I feel like every day is crunch time, getting everything in and working and having to do this and this. But the lovely thing about incorporating something creative or exercise or social community is that you have to reach out of your box, and it's really enlightening. It really does prove to work on your brain in a different way.
Yes, absolutely. And it's that stepping outside of that place of feeling like everything has to happen now. Everything has to happen, at warp speed, as you mentioned. And so taking that step back, modulating that stress response allows you to gain perspective and see things from a different angle.
Which is great, which is
absolutely
amazing. Yeah.
You've written so much about parenting. How do we raise kids who are strong and steady without making them feel like they have to perform their way into worth?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it really comes down to a couple things. And the first is we really want to help our kids to also find a way to modulate their stress response. And the cool thing is about the relaxation response, you can really teach them that very early. Prior to the point where they're kind of in that developmental space to integrate the relaxation response, we can do belly breathing. We can use one of those bubble wands. We can start to lay the foundation of the power of our breath. That's what we want to do with very young kids, but really integrating the relaxation response early. And then it comes down to our relationship with our kids and having that authentic human relationship with our kids in a way that we're not jumping in there to fix everything, We're allowing them time and space for problem solving, for understanding themselves, all of that. So important. Helping them as well as us not to compare ourselves to others. Really hard. Helping to appreciate our own unique context as parents and helping our kids to do the same. Because we're not all going to have the same strengths, the same aptitudes. We're not going to end up in the same place. This is true for siblings too. Very important to help our kids to find a way to appreciate their context and maximize their potential within that context. So it all comes down to that authentic human relationship that we can form with our kids. Just having time each day to be with them without trying to jump in and fix.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that piece is so important because, we talk about getting to neutral and it's good to stay at neutral. But then when you have these feelings, especially children, because their feelings are so large, so big, that it's so important to let them feel it, let them have the human experience. And as they start to settle, or you notice that they do need some guidance in settling, then it's okay, let's take a deep breath together. And then you do it too.
Right. When you hold them, especially when they're young, like I've seen you do with your daughter,
right.
She does it with you. She feels you. So it's amazing because you started this at like
when she was born.
Right. Right. And she does it, which is great. Now you're having one any time now, another one. So
Yes.
That will maybe be the learning that Kate is speaking of, that person may be needing something else from you and it wouldn't look like your daughter, right?
Right, exactly. So I think just that piece of doing it with them. And when you're upset or you're having big emotions, because we're all human and we do, and it's kind of impossible to not, when you're doing it, you then role model that response of, and
Right.
I need
We
a
were
breath.
just talking about that, that kids I don't think people really listen well. And I wish they would more, myself included. But I feel like when you do something, whatever you're doing and how you're doing it, that's what people, especially kids, that's how they learn the most. That's how they take it
Yes.
in. How you're going to respond to something is they're going to try to copy that a little bit, which is great. You just have to always remember that you're being watched and what is the lesson that you want to teach right now.
Yes, that modeling piece is very powerful and very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to talk about one of your books or your podcast, or do you want to just
Do a plug-in.
Yeah, sure. My latest book, Step Away, The Keys to Resilient Parenting, really
and
covers
grandparenting? Does this apply?
it all of the principles. The cool thing is all of the principles in all of my books apply to all of us across the lifespan in different modes. And yes, actually, I've had a lot of grandparents buy the book.
That's why I was being ironic, but it's very good. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And really it outlines a lot of what we've already talked about. It's how we optimize our own sense of well-being within our own unique context such that we can show up fully across the domains, but particularly in this case as parents, and how we can help our kids do the same through that authentic human relationship, through self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and all of that good stuff. And so the book incorporates case studies across different issues and things that could come up for us as parents. And it really serves as a guidebook, a map for us as parents in terms of how we can optimize without comparing. And that's really the biggest takeaway from the book.
Absolutely, because this world is all about, the social media and the visual, and people think that just because this is happening, that's real. It's actually not. And I try to explain that to my clients because they're under the couch at times also. So it doesn't apply. but regulating to where you are and to where each person is actually being authentic and genuine and logical.
Yes.
And that's how kids learn, really.
100%. Yes.
I love that. We always come back to this idea of a juicy life, something that feels alive, connected, and real. What does that kind of life mean to you? And how does that resilience help us get there?
Yeah. So that kind of life really looks like living authentically and in the moment as best as possible. Easier said than done. It's noticing the moments of joy throughout the day, which again, easier said than done. And it's engaging in passions. It's engaging in things that make you feel good, connected, and alive at the end of the day. And I've got lots of different examples of those, but you mentioned at the beginning my work with Wally out at the hospital.
Yes, we're dog people.
Yeah, dog people. Yes, I've always been a dog person, and that is really, really meaningful, a meaningful piece of my life, because dogs have really helped me through a lot of things, and having the ability to give back with Wally makes a big difference. And Wally is so cool because he's a typical dog here at home. I mean, I have 18-year-old twin boys, and he wrestles with them, and he hangs out, and he does all the things, and might want to steal a steak off the counter every once in a while. But when he walks into that hospital, he knows why he's there. And he shifts into, okay, I'm in visiting mode. And it's very powerful to see the impact of that. I mean, we help out in physical therapy sessions sometimes where we're standing at the end of the hall, and a child who's struggling at the other end of the hall in a PT session has a goal to get down the hallway to pet Wally. And when they make it, when they hit that goal.
Oh, I know. I just want to cry right now.
Really
I can see it in my...
powerful. And so I think that is the kind of thing, to bring it back to a juicy life. If you can find a way to give back in a powerful, meaningful way for you, whatever that looks like, I think that is kind of at the core of
That's the juice.
Life.
That's the juice. I love that. It is.
Yes.
And it's sweet.
Because it's also, you're not only filling everyone else's cup, and it also fills your own.
And
that's-
Wally's. And Wally's.
And Wally's.
Yes, he's a happy boy, and from time to time we'll stop at this little shopping place on the way back, and he'll get a pup cup, and we'll go to Starbucks together, and that's fun too. So it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you
That's
so
so
much
cool.
for sharing who you are and your books and all your work and your podcast. It's amazing. And we want to be able to share your links and all your socials with everyone who listens to us.
Yeah. So where can our listeners find you?
Sounds great. Yeah, so there's my website, which is a great spot to land, www.katelundspeaks.com. And I'm also very present on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining Squeeze Limes. We had such fun with Dr. Kate Lund. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to her or reach out to us. And we'll pass that along, or any reviews, comments, and celebrations that you maybe found in this episode. Otherwise, we're excited to see you next time. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure, our pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Thanks so much. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a good squeeze.
Of course, everybody needs one.
See you next time on Squeeze Limes.